Good morning, esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, and participants. It is my privilege and honor to address such a august gathering, and I'll be giving a presentation on maritime salvage and emergency response through the perspective of Indian Maritime Administration. Today we have gathered here to discuss and deliberate on a subject that is as ancient as the maritime trade itself, and yet remains critically important and relevant to the modern world. Salvage, as we all know, is traditionally associated with salvaging or preservation of property in peril at sea, and it is a concept which is very unique to maritime law. However, over a period of time, its scope has evolved far beyond just the preservation of property. Maritime salvage has also been at the forefront of placing awareness about maritime pollution and the challenges such operations they present. Today, the salvage is just not about rescuing vessels and cargo, it is about also safeguarding our marine environment and the devastating consequences of such incidents. Salvage is a critical maritime operation, and it emanates out of ship groundings, collisions, mechanical failures to hazardous oil spill, which our previous speakers have touched upon very briefly, and which our speakers throughout the sessions during the day will be giving individual case studies. Each of these incidents presented significant challenges which were addressed. Some were addressed successfully, some took a little longer. In the face of such challenges, the modern salvage operations demand a very, very coordinated and effective response through interagency coordination, which the subsequent speakers will highlight. And as a maritime administration, it is our bounden duty to bring all the stakeholders together and all the responders together so that the response is quick and efficient. The scope of the maritime salvage today extends beyond only to the vessel recovery and encompasses wreck removal and hazard mitigation, pollution control and environmental protection, emergency towing and assistance. The salvage operation now, apart from recovery, also focuses on wreck removal or standard vessels that obstruct shipping lanes and have the potential to affect local economy and operations. And through removal of such wrecks, we ensure that our navigational channels remain for operations. And salvors are, as we all know, are generally the first responders in case of any maritime incident to prevent pollution. And the specialized assets, either which are arranged through the salvage companies or through the maritime administration, like emergency towing vessels. In some countries, such services are also provided by the Coast Guard. Ensure that the stricken vessels do not end up on the coastline. And we must all remember that emergency towing vessels per se are not salvage tugs. They are just a first line of defense in tackling with the emergency situation. And the importance of salvage. The importance of salvage can be divided into further subcategories. The efficient salvage operation or a successful salvage operation will result in economic protection. That is, your coastline remains protected, your ports remain operational, and the environmental safety. In case a successful salvage operation results in no pollution, your coastline remains safe and clean. And all this have to be done under the ambit of regulatory and statutory compliance. And by ensuring that your navigational lanes remain safe in case a wreck has to be removed, efficient salvage operation ensures that your vessels navigating your channels do navigate safely and your commerce or trade doesn't get affected. This actually, the navigational safety aspect will be discussing in detail, slightly detailed, in the MV Dali incident, the incident which resulted in the closure of the entire port because the navigational channel was obstructed for almost over a month. And when we come to the salvage under the Indian legal legislation, salvage operations in India are regulated through the Merchant Shipping Act, in particular through the Part 13, which has been described earlier. And to go further and to align further with the international convention, the Merchant Shipping Bill aims to align with the Nairobi Convention and the Salvage Convention to ensure a more structured and efficient response framework to deal with such emergencies. And maritime incidents, in all instances, such incidents come without any forewarning. And how quick or efficient your response would be, whether you have an institutional framework in place. And for you to have an institutional framework in place, it is essential that the organization has developed standard operating procedures through consultative mechanism, and these SOPs have to be tried and tested before you can conclude that these are effective. And DG Shipping has come out with SOPs to handle Indian maritime casualty, to handle maritime casualty around Indian coast. And then we have SOPs for conduct of preliminary inquiries, because we also have a added responsibility of carrying out preliminary investigations into the marine casualties happening in Indian waters. And then also we have SOP for cyclones. The cyclone response mechanism is also being dealt with the Directorate General of Shipping, DG-Com in particular. And again, for this also we have a consultative mechanism in which we have IMD, Indian National Ship Owners, all ports which are likely to get affected, and the Indian Coast Guard. Indian Coast Guard plays a very stellar role in this. These SOPs, the first three were developed in 2021, then we have done some modification. And then we also have a contingency anti-piracy plan, which is not in the scope of discussion today. And in all these SOPs are available on DG Shipping website. If the participants are interested, they can have a look at the SOPs. These SOPs are very simple. If your SOPs are not simple and easy to comprehend, they will not be followed on ground. So we have a flow diagram, and effectiveness of each of these SOPs is a testimony that we haven't had a major incident in last 2-3 years around Indian coast. And there's another SOP for participation of DG Shipping technical officers in investigation happening in foreign waters. That is the last one. Taking part in investigation as a substantially interested state as per IMO's Casualty Investigation Code. The technical team from the Directorate General of Shipping participated in the Dali incident after a request was received from US Coast Guard for participation in USCG NTSB-led investigation into the Dali incident. So a 2-member team was dispatched under the able guidance of our Director General. In fact, this was the first, one of the first. In fact, there were 1 or 2 cases earlier also. Here, the logistical arrangements were made in a very, very short span of time, thanks to the coordination through MEA and other agencies. And now we are, I'll just briefly dwell upon this MV Dali incident. And on the left side photograph, which you see, that is the point of impact of ship. This actually, why I would say the SOPs are so important. The incident happened, and this incident particularly brings to focus that no matter how well prepared you are, the incidents will still happen. And from the time the first blackout happened, within 4 minutes, the ship ended up making a contact with the bridge. And when you see this multi-plate girder beams, you can see a small dolphin. So when this bridge was constructed, there are 4 dolphins on the fore and aft section of these multi-beam girder plate. This was the only protection against large ships. This protection was relevant when the vessel was built. But as the size of the ships grew older, nobody realized that this was inadequate. But then the ship actually entered at an angle. It didn't touch the dolphin, it only made contact with the beam. And this happened precisely in 4 minutes. And why I emphasize the importance of a SOP, the most important aspect in this incident was there were minimal casualties. Only 6 people lost their lives because the US authorities could stop the traffic on the bridge in only 2 minutes. And if we were to see, will it be possible in Indian context to achieve this level of efficiency? And after this incident, we had a discussion with the ministry, and we have also come out with SOPs for similar infrastructure in Indian waters. And last week, a meeting was chaired by Cabinet Secretary Security to see the functioning of SOPs post Dali incident. And this incident highlights the importance a efficient salvage can have on the response. And this particular incident actually is likely to be the most costliest maritime incident in history ever, because this incident not only obstructed the port channel over a month, it virtually closed down one of the most busiest ports in United States completely, which the authorities were not prepared for. And we have the cost of repair of the bridge, of opening up of the navigation channel, and the incidental cost, the port not being operational, the workers not being able to work for over a month, and host of associated charges. So those figures, the filing of the claims is still going on, and the figures are not going to be less than 7 to 8 billion US dollars as on date as we speak, and it is only going to be further more. And as a part of DG Shipping's response mechanism, we have a IMO resolution for providing maritime assistance services to the ship, that is under IMO resolution A950. This resolution is not binding on member state, but this is just a guidance and a advisory. And as part of the maritime assistance service, we coordinate with the ships, we provide real-time information, we act as a point of contact between various authorities, and we also coordinate with the salvage team, the Coast Guard, the port authorities, and all other stakeholders to ensure that whenever any salvage operation or any assistance operation is carried out, it is carried out very efficiently and least possible time. The essence of success of any maritime operation involving incident, the key essence is your response time. The lesser your response time, the higher chances of the success rate of such a incident. And for this maritime assistance service, we have our DG-Com center, as DG sir had just said, and this center is in Nav Bhavan. It is operated 24/7, manned by very competent radio officers and master mariner. And this center serves as a first point of contact and coordinates between various stakeholders. And generally for marine casualty incident, our first point of contact always remains the MRCC, the Indian Coast Guard. And though we control the ETV, we hire the ETV, the operational control of the ETV once deployed remains with the Coast Guard. And our response time is very quick, and we are thankful to Chennai Port and Mumbai Port who facilitate the release of ETV. Maximum time we have faced is within 50 to 20 minutes. Whenever the request is made, the ETV sails out. And while highlighting the emergency response, the first case, which is a very notable incident, is the MERS Frankfurt. This vessel sailed out of Mundra and was bound for Colombo. And on this ship, a fire broke out on one of the containers on deck, and information was received at DG-Com, which was immediately relayed to Coast Guard. And there will be a detailed presentation on this by the Indian Coast Guard, so I will not dwell much upon this. And the flag state of this vessel was Panama. We contacted the Panama flag P&I Club and the ship managers, and immediately the request was made that the scale of the operation, as informed by Coast Guard, it was evident in first 1 or 2 days that it will not be contained by our efforts alone. The Coast Guard was very swift in deploying total, I think 5 or 6 assets were deployed, including ALH, Dornier, and The left side photograph, the video which you see, this is the advanced light helicopter dropping DCP bombs. And the importance of this operation is the containers which were on fire had sodium cyanide, and which actually puts the crew, ship's crew, and the ALH operators in high risk. But still the operations were undertaken, and below you have two Coast Guard assets spraying water. This operation was 24/7. And on top you have Albatross 5. This was part of the salvage response team. And after almost about a month effort, the fire was contained on the ship. Unfortunately, this incident resulted in loss of one life, and the seafarer was landed in New Mangalore. But having said this, this operation also tested our resolve and our effectiveness of our SOPs, whether it was the Coast Guard, the DG Shipping, or the local port authorities. We did have some issues, but the response was by and large satisfactory. And even when the salvage team came from Netherlands, the DG Shipping even coordinated making visa arrangement for the foreign salvage team which came. And we had some immigration issues. All that was arranged by DG Shipping, Coast Guard, and the port authorities. And in the center, you can see that operation happening in the night time. Next is this JSW Raigad incident. I will not dwell. This has been discussed in detail by Captain Azad sir. And this again eventually led to successful operation. There was no oil pollution. The oil was retrieved and the vessel sailed out. And the learnings from the incident that the vessel did not have adequate power. This has already been touched upon by Captain Azad sir. And around Indian coast, actually I would say I am deeply humbled when I hear my name so many times that we had successful operation. But I am also conscious of the fact that you are good only till your last successful operation. And the next slide, you will see the number of incidents which are happening around Indian coast. And you have engine failure, you have grounding, flooding, loss of anchor, you name it, and we had it all. And each of this incident, our response was quick, efficient, and none of the incident actually made it to the international media. So you can understand that the operations were carried out successfully, and for which we remain thankful to the stakeholders and the other responders in this incident. Now we touch upon emergency towing vessels. These emergency towing vessels are in operation with the DG Shipping since 2011. Earlier we had a different mechanism. Now we have a different mechanism. The contract of these ETVs is expiring in 2025, August and September, and subsequently we are extending it by another 5 years. The mechanism would be slightly different. So I would talk about the present situation. We have one on West Coast and one in East Coast. Though we have had multiple round of discussion whether the numbers are sufficient. So as DG sir also had mentioned a concept of alpha tech, which I will be talking about towards the conclusion of my presentation. So ETV at Mumbai port is managed by Mumbai Port Water Lily, and on the East Coast, Ocean Bliss by Chennai Port. So these ETVs are essentially harbor tugs, and they have ocean-going manning. And in case of any emergency response, whenever we receive a request from the Indian Coast Guard or any other agency, like in one case, we also had received requests from National Institute of Oceanography when one of their vessels had a power blackout and was on the verge of running aground off Karwar. But one issue we also face is regarding the understanding of the functioning of the ETV. While we remain very clear and steadfast the role of ETVs, the ship managers and operators confuse this as a salvage tug. I want to clarify that this is not a salvage tug. It is only to provide a immediate or a temporary relief against a vessel running aground, or it's only a immediate response. Like in MERS Frankfurt, the vessel was sent earlier, and subsequently the Smith Salvage, they arranged their own tugs for carrying out the operations. The emergency towing vessel, this we have already talked. This is also as part of maritime assistance service that we provide assistance to vessel. The ETVs in the past 1 year have been used for helping the vessels in case of breakdown, and it has also been involved in firefighting operations like MERS Frankfurt. And when you look at this picture, this we have taken from the open source, the traffic density on the west coast of India, the red dots highlight the tanker vessel. The number of vessels on the west coast are considerably higher. The incidents happening on the west coast are also considerably higher, and as a result, the ETV, the water lily, the time for which it is used is considerably higher than Ocean Bliss. So there is actually a case, a very strong case for having additional ETV, either additional ETV or a concept of alpha tug which has to be operationalized. This particular case of C. Siddhi, we received the information that the vessel is about to run aground, and when we checked in the system, it was actually already aground, but fortunately the ship was touching bottom in low tide and was afloat in high tide. The water lily went very close to the vessel, and this vessel was saved, and she was towed to Gulf of Khambat. So this was one of the successful rescue operations which was done by ETV alone. In this operation, no other stakeholder was involved. This operation was done entirely and only by ETV. And now we come to provisions under the Merchant Shipping Bill, and in Merchant Shipping Bill 2024, various steps are being envisaged to have a robust mechanism to deal with emergencies and salvage response. Like, one is the retention of salvers. We will have a mechanism where we have qualified salvers as part of our team, rights of salvers, and this also has a dispute resolution mechanism should there a dispute arise by employing these salvers. And the Merchant Shipping Bill, we realized that there were some lacunae, some areas of concern in the existing Merchant Shipping Act. There was something else we could dwell upon, something else we could improve. And in this, we will be discussing in the subsequent slide the area how we are going to empanel these salvers, and also the grievance redressal that I just mentioned. And now, what is the way forward? How do we streamline or further refine our process of response? We cannot be happy like whatever we have done in the past is past. Now, how do we improve further? Now, to have a unified thing, we have state governments also coming out with their own mechanism, the central government coming out with their own mechanism. There has to be synergy between these two agencies. Like Gujarat government has already come out with such, which I came to know very late, in fact. And this model has been adopted by Inland Waterways Authority of India. And now, to have a response mechanism, to have a common platform, it is always essential that we have a stakeholder consultation to come out with a mechanism that is tested and suggested and easily implementable. And for this, we are looking at regulatory and legal frameworks to develop salvage response protocol, SOPs, and empanelment of salvers. And the empanelment of salvers, people or the salvage companies with repute. The last slide will talk about the criteria that we'll be talking about. And the way forward, the immediate way forward, like what we anticipate coming out of this seminar is in summation captured in this slide, that we want the salvage companies to set up shop in India, to have a dedicated equipment, dedicated personnel who remain stationed in India, who basically India should be a regional hub for such activities, considering the traffic around Indian coast and the incidents happening around Indian coast. And we also have a concept of alpha tug deployment. Like this MERS Frankfurt, this incident happened off Goa, and this ETV was released from Mumbai. It took almost about 36 hours for the ETV to reach the incident site. Sea Siddhi also, we had about 16 hours. And the NIO vessel, Samudra Nidhi, it again took close to 36 hours. So that initial response has to be quick. So to mitigate this, we have a concept of alpha tug. So through this alpha tug, what we are looking at is all the ports in India will have one lead tug on which we'll have a manning, which is adequate for sea going operation, and we'll have a team of trained salvers, and which can be deployed in case of any emergency. So basically the response time will be shortened. And now the place of refuge. This remains a very, very sensitive and critical subject, and it is not easy to address, because this is not only a technical issue, this is also a political issue. And this we have realized in case of Erika, Prestige, and before this, nobody has mentioned about this incident, the Castor incident. Somehow I find this Castor incident is not in public memory, but then it was also instrumental in generating public opinion towards efficient and effective salvage response. So the place of refuge, it has to be a conscious decision. Again, this will be through stakeholder, because here again we have the center and state relations, and the port will always give the priority over its operation, whether how the operation or providing a place of refuge is likely to affect its commercial viability in case should something go wrong. As long as things are going okay, it is all appreciated and forgotten. But should the thing go wrong, there the problem arises, and that is where the time is lost in taking decisions. And now the empanelment of empanelment of salvage for prompt response. So these are the qualifications that we are in a very preliminary stages. We'll be coming out with some kind of a checklist, so that we are able to empanel salvers for having efficient response mechanism. As part of our response mechanism, we are also engaging with Indian Coast Guard to share our experience, to learn from their experiences in each of the cases that they have handled, we have handled, to further streamline our processes. So what are we looking for the salvers is experience, qualification, financial ratings, the presence of correspondence, their success rate. As Sukumaran Saab said, all looks very good on paper, but the actual reality is not what always comes out. The financial stability, reinsurance. Reinsurance is one of the very key aspect in this, and whether there are any outstanding claims for incidents. And with this, I come towards the conclusion of my slide. Thank you so much for such a patient hearing. Thank you so much.